What's going on, guys? I'm Steve from Pacific Lawn Sprinklers. This is Mary. We're going to go over a couple key things that irrigation guys can use to help budget for the irrigation company. So we want to see you guys do good. We want to see you guys be successful. Make sure you're making money and not losing money as much as possible. So we're just going to go through a couple key things you should consider when creating your company, or even if you're already running your company, things you need to keep track of to stay on top of your business. So you have some direct costs related to your jobs, and you need to keep track of them through the year, especially with varying markets and as your demand for work fluctuates. So one of the key things you need to keep in mind is payroll taxes for your crew. Are you building that into your prices? And how do we build that kind of stuff in here?
It's commonly overlooked on a company level. You envision what you're paying your technicians as their salary.
Right.
But you forget that on the company level, depending on where you're located in your state, you have to pay a company tax for them as well. And when you're budgeting and creating your jobs, you have to make sure that you have figured out their salary plus what we call a labor burden, which is the payroll taxes on them, what they may cost you on insurance per hour worked. So you have to make sure you look into labor burden, which comes on the company level.
Right. So even when you're pricing your jobs, basically what she's saying is if you're paying your guy $20 an hour, he may cost you $25 an hour. Yeah, he might be $25 an hour. So we see that a lot of guys, coming into our system. They think $20 is $20, but when you own a company, there's other costs, associated with that. So make sure you build that into your pricing when you're figuring things out. Obviously salaries, you got to calculate salaries for your crews, and it all kind of rolls together. But when you're coming up with your budget for the year, keep in mind that, even when you're pricing jobs, if your guys are on heavy overtime,
yes.
I think I covered this in another video, but that's why you should have, pricing levels, different pricing levels based on the time of year. So that's a big thing.
Based on your demand.
Based on your demand.
If you're booking work 2-3 weeks out, you want to be at your highest pricing. But as the slower season kicks in, you'll still have this overhead, and you'll know what that overhead is if you do a budget. We're talking things like mobile phones for the guys. If they have tablets, you have data plans for them to do their work. Uniforms, work clothes, things that are not directly related to when you're pricing out a job with your heads and your valves. How much does your truck cost you? The insurance on it, the depreciation on it,
right?
The wear and tear on it. Plan for that rainy day. You're going to have a truck breakdown. Do you have money put aside for renting a truck, repairing the truck? You have to build a little surplus when you can into those jobs to cover your rainy day.
Right. And that's some of the stuff we're going to try and hit with you guys. Just a couple key points maybe you didn't consider, but hopefully you could build into your budget. So just I'm rolling down a list here of an income statement. You have your sprinkler purchases, obviously, of what material that you're buying, which is a separate video, but you really need to negotiate your payment terms and your prices with the supply houses
up front before your season kicks off. It's the best time to do it. You have the time,
right?
And it's before you're already buying, so you're kind of dating right now. They don't have you yet. Meet with different supply houses. Don't get caught up with just one.
Yeah, definitely do not get one price. And even if you've been using the same supply house for years, listen, you always got to.
That's usually the worst.
You always got to go and check other suppliers and see what type of deals they have and what they're offering.
Right.
A good tip with supply houses, we have several, but a good tip is to tell them that if there's any price fluctuations throughout the year, they have to email you in writing of any price changes. This way, they can't change the price of a rotary head from, say, whatever, or $10 to $15 without you knowing. They must notify you in writing.
Yeah, and we usually demand 30 days in advance. There are certain fluctuations that they can't control, tariffs you see this year, but for the most part, you should know your pricing up front and watch those bills. Separate video on that, but with the supply houses, there's a lot of things that can change mid-year that you're so busy you're not keeping an eye on, but that's just money flying out the door.
Yeah. You got to pull back. You got to print out all your invoices and go through literally every item and make sure that the guy behind the counter didn't screw up and enter a quantity of 100 instead of 10.
Yeah.
We've seen it all happen. So just another key point there. Like she said, you have to consider your equipment rental and repair. So if you have a machine or something, probably
blades,
yeah, budget that machine's going to probably go down for 1 week at least out of your year, depending how many jobs you're doing and everything. So
and you don't want to cancel a job.
No.
You want to be able to just have money put aside to go rent that machine, keep the customers happy. We always say we don't cancel on customers.
No.
Because that's when bad things start to happen. So even if it costs you a little bit, if you plan for that rainy day, you'll keep the customer happy, which is a referral upon a referral, and that's better for you.
Yeah, and the machine will always go down on the day that you're starting a big 3-day job and you have all this material lined up. We've seen it all. So those are kind of some of your like direct costs, related to getting the job done. But then you have
permits. Don't forget permits if you're in a town
permits.
or a locality with permits.
Yeah, permits. Permits are tricky because depending on we work in several states. There's different permits required per city, per county, per town. If it's an incorporated town, water department, different overlapping water departments could have different jurisdictions in certain towns and everything. That's a whole separate thing, but you almost need to get pricing from every single town or city and see what their permit fee is going to be and include it in your job cost. Don't just think that you're going to pay for the permit and come up with a price per zone and your permit's going to be included in there. Sometimes too, if you're on a main road or you're on a commercial building or something, you'd be surprised they'll even hit you for higher permits. So yeah, licensing, that'll certainly add up. Yeah. So that's kind of like direct job costs, but you also have overhead that's always going on, in the background. So even when you're sleeping before you even wake up, there's bills sitting there.
Well, there's the overhead that even if you didn't do a sprinkler job, that bill is still coming in.
Yeah.
The lights.
Right, the lights got to stay on, the cables got to pump. Right.
Yeah, so you have to figure out what are those things that exist, whether you go out and do a job today or not.
Yeah.
Because once you know what that overhead is, that money has to be made on a monthly basis, then you'll start to know when you do go into that slower season, I can afford to take jobs at a lower profit just to meet that overhead.
Just to cover it.
Just to cover that overhead.
Right, and that's why pricing levels are so important. It's a separate video that I did, but it all kind of ties together. It's a tricky business. As far as overhead, we'll go through a couple key things that you need to consider. First big thing would probably be, advertising.
Yes.
So if you're doing it on your own and you have a marketing company or something,
that can be a moving target too.
That's a moving target, and it depends what you're advertising on. What platforms are we on now?
Google, Home Advisor, Thumbtack, Angie's List.
Mm-hmm.
Some of those, you get a better deal when you pay up front, but then you can't really control turning them on and off. So you have to be aware of what you can handle. Mm-hmm. Sometimes saving a little bit up front costs you more in the end. So you really have to step into it a little slow and figure out what's the best for you. Because sometimes you just have to, pause things or ramp them up. It's more important to pay for a lead to get that work going.
Right. And still Google top.
Always.
The top.
If you know how to use it.
Okay, yeah,
if you know how to use it, otherwise...
Right. Yeah, your budget could go out of the window if you don't know.
Yeah, within an hour you can spend your monthly budget on Google if you don't know what you're doing.
They'll kill you if you got the wrong words. So advertising, something you need to budget for, put a heavy focus towards Google. Also in advertising, would be, your marketing company or consultant that you're going to hire, you got to roll that in too.
Maintaining your website.
Maintaining your website would be advertising.
Yeah, and you have to have a website nowadays. If you want to be a company that grows and is known and has reputable standards, you have to have a website.
Right. And with online scheduling, online payments, that kind of stuff. So roll that all in. Start there. A couple key things we'll roll down to. Again, your auto expenses. You have your payments on your trucks. You have, your truck's going to break down. You have all your gas.
Yeah, insurance on them. That's always a bigger one. Insurance on the company in general. Workman's comp insurance if your state requires it. If you have an umbrella. These are all things that you're going to get that bill every month, whether you roll a truck out or not. You have to be covered. Right,
and the insurance varies greatly. If you're doing installations or you're just doing service work, they have a lot of different, the insurance companies vary. Yeah, there's different rates. Sometimes if you have machinery and stuff, you need to kind of get, I forgot what it's called, like a marine auto machine insurance, just for your machinery and stuff. States vary crazy with insurance. We'll have, places up in the north that are a little lower in insurance, and then sometimes some places in Florida will kill you with insurance. So you got to really look into that. You got to get a good
That's
broker.
something you should shop around.
Yeah.
Also, that's an annual shop around. You see who's offering the best deal, and if you switch every year, you switch every year. You got to keep that number down.
Right. Another one that guys probably don't consider, because you don't really hear about it, is bank service charges. Do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah, I mean, that's a combination of things. If you have certain banks just require as a business account, you just get a monthly fee. You can have a monthly fee based on if you go over the amount of deposits that they allow for the month. So it's really important to negotiate with the bank. Sometimes you want to go to the one that's right across the street, but they're not as financially fiscal with your money. So you want to go to the ones that have the lowest amount of fees, require the lower balances, because with irrigation in most areas, you have that seasonal cash flow. So sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low. Credit cards.
Right.
You get charged different rates for credit cards. If you have technicians that collect payment in the field, which we highly recommend, it's important that they have swipes and that they're not just keying in the cards.
Yeah.
That could be a video in itself. Just
so
safety,
important.
security, and cost. If you take a payment over the phone or even on the website, they charge you more when you're not swiping that card or the chip insert, whatever it is, because they basically consider it not present. It's a higher level of fraud. You're going to pay a higher percentage.
Right.
However, it's your best way to get cash flow. You have to accept credit cards in this day and age. It's very hard to say, nope, just cash only or a check. It's not really worth it. If they have a credit card, be ready to accept it, because you want their payment. Every time you walk away from collecting a payment, there's a 30% chance you're going to lose part of that money. That's just a collection fact.
Huge thing about the bank service charges, guys. I know when I was running my franchise, we didn't think anything of it. We were entering the card numbers for a while there, which you're not really supposed to do. But more importantly, we were getting banged on service charges.
You're paying over.
I think we paid like an extra 20 grand or something like that, more than if we would have had the right swipers and everything. So we don't want to see you guys make that mistake. But it's not many people know about that, but it's a huge cost.
And sometimes you have the employees who just want to get to the next job, say, just go online and pay. You want to encourage them, even if you have to, have some sort of program, whoever collects the most on site this month, free day off or free, you have to enlist your team to collect at the door, because one, you're paying higher fees, and like I said, there's so much data out there on if you don't collect at the door, your chances for collection just keep dropping.
Right.
They send in less tax, or they send in partial money, or now they have a dispute all of a sudden. If they paid, you probably go away and they wouldn't be thinking about you again, which is what you want.
Right, exactly. Cash flow, guys. Rolling down the list, some obvious charges would be your call center or your administration in the office staff. Depending how many people you have, we have all different sections of admin, bookkeeping, sales department, customer service reps, lower level, higher level, supervisors.
Franchisees.
Yeah, but depending on your office, you might have one person or two people kind of doing everything. But either way, figure out how many people you need for all the different jobs. I mean, it's a lot for accounts payable, accounts receivable, plus trying to answer the phones at the same time. So you need to really budget for that. And also with that, just like your crews, is that can be a sliding scale.
Yes.
Because if you have a peak season like the spring or something, you're going to be paying them more hours to stay on, answer the phones, do all that stuff,
right,
rather than say the winter or something. So you need to budget for their overtime. You need to budget for your peak season, but you don't want to cheap out and not have them on staff during that peak season, because that's when you're going to bring in your customers.
Exactly.
And grow your business and your future. So don't cheap out on that, but make sure you budget for that overtime. There's a lot of things on this list. Insurance.
Garbage collection, I think that's always overlooked.
Garbage collection.
In a lot of localities, if you're a business, they don't give you collection. Garbage collection. You have to pay for that to have that all removed off your property. We always see that as we go, I didn't think about that. That can add up depending on the size of your...
$400 a month?
Yeah, depending on the size of your, operation and how many times you get picked up. But that's, again, this is the monthly numbers you want to look at and say, am I pricing jobs to cover these costs, because they exist?
Right. How about, I'm not sure it would fall on this list, but how about software? You have your
Yes.
software charges. So you have your you're running tablets out in the field, right, or whatever you have. You have your, say Verizon bill, which has to cover your tablet, which should have roaming Wi-Fi or 4G or whatever it is, or you have a jetpack to cover that. You have your cell phones.
Just licensing, having to do with Microsoft or Apple or
Software
Android, whatever.
licensing,
Yeah,
right.
exactly. And that it adds up. Sometimes it's per user. Nowadays, you don't really get one program that everybody can log into. You have to pay per user. So these are things that can easily add up
Right.
if you're not being aware of it. If you do give your technicians tablets, do you have 1 or 2 spares ready to go?
Yeah, you almost got to
that's a
pay
cost.
for it, to have it activated, to have it live 4G, because if your guy's tablet's down, if he runs over it or it falls off the back of the truck, you need to have him get right out there, and he can't be calling the office every 2 minutes, and
No, you
he's
always
got to
wanna
be
have a
collecting
couple-
payments.
Couple spares depending on the size of your organization. You have to have spares that are always ready to go, because inevitably, someone's
it'll
cracking a
get-
screen,
definitely.
running it over. What
Yeah,
else have we
yeah.
heard? We lost it. We left it on the hood.
Hood of the car, hood of the truck, it flew off. Sprinkler, they sprayed
Yes,
it.
yeah,
It's in
we've
the
heard
valve
it all.
box. Yeah.
But,
So-
and that's also a good point is don't buy a super expensive one,
Yep.
because you'd rather just have a few spares that cost $200, maybe $300 than the $3,000 one that can float and
Yeah,
go underwater.
it's not worth it,
It's not
especially
worth
if
it.
you got employees. I mean,
And technology changes so quickly
yeah.
that really expensive, rugged, waterproof device, in a year from now, it's outdated again.
Right.
So, again, lesson learned, we've done the mistake. So we
Right.
definitely advise on something that is much more economic and much more available.
Right.
You don't
right.
want these super rugged ones where you have to order. It's it could be a week or 2 to get set up. You
Right.
want it, it's in a box, here, go.
And
Amazon.
and we've discovered if you're going to buy a tablet or some or software for your business, Apple's great. I have an Apple computer here that's giving me problems currently, but Apple's hard. Its interface is hard to integrate with a lot of the service softwares and stuff. So
Yes.
Android is usually the preferred platform. If you're getting any type of service software, most of the time they're going to be on Android. So don't
Unless
go
it's
gearing up.
web-based. If you're web-based, you're fine, or application-based. But
Right.
it's something to look into. Definitely consult before jumping.
One final thing, really, for budgeting, you'll probably agree with me, and I think you said it before, is if you're not collecting on site, or even if you're trying to, you're going to have some write-offs at the end of the year. You're going to have some what we call bad debts. You're going to have some people that just don't pay. It could be the nicest guy in the world, and you think he's going to send you a check, and he never does.
Right.
So sometimes there's costs with trying to track him down, get the payment. Sometimes you even have to get a collection company for depending how many customers you're doing, how much money you're doing per year. It might be easier to get a collection company. And not everyone's trying to avoid your bill, but people get busy and it happens, and you need your money. So there will be. Don't always think that you're going to collect all your money. It's probably not going to happen, unfortunately.
Right. So you're going to have a small layer of write-off. Even if you do get a collection agency, they've now moved. It's not worth going after the small monies. But do work that into the budget. But I'll say the most important part of your budget, actually looking at it, preparing it. I mean, if you're going to go through the travels of building it, you should be
Right.
looking at it every month.
Right.
Whoever does your bookkeeping, make sure they have it up to date, the 5th or 6th of the month. They get the bank statements, the credit card statements, and then you compare it. Where am I up? Where am I down? What do I have to change?
Right.
Because, to create a budget to not live by it doesn't
You
mean
need
anything.
budgets and you need targets. So, the budget would go on the spending end, but then you need the targets of, how much your sales are going to increase every year, and then, everything has to increase accordingly. But what we found is that if you're just shooting blind and you don't have, some idea of benchmarks of a budget, say advertising is 10% or 20% or whatever, like everything can work off a benchmark and you could carry it through the years. As you get bigger, costs are going to increase. But like she said, if you don't pay attention to the budget, it'll never work. So
And you can't always trust the professionals that are going to tell you, oh yeah, you make all your money in this area or in that area. You have to go in and look. You'll know, maybe this crew did really good in this department, but not as good in, lighting versus sprinklers. You're going to be the one to know that, so you got to go in.
Yeah. And your accountant doesn't know irrigation. So don't think by just going to an accountant and handing him over some receipts and stuff that he's going to tell you if you're doing good or not.
And being a business owner, you have to start to learn accounting.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you have to wear multiple hats as a business owner. So to just say, well, I have an accountant who takes care of all of that. Okay, but what is he taking care of? This is your money, your livelihood, and your future.
Right.
You have to know, and it will take time. You're not going to get it the first
No.
year or two, but you have
It's a
to be
lot.
involved in the process of what are they doing? What are these entries that they're giving me at the end of the year? What do they mean for me?
Right, right. So, I mean, you guys can start off if you're just starting now. Start doing your research online, just about how to run an income statement or a balance sheet. You could probably even print sample ones off a line or Google this kind of stuff. Hopefully, you have someone advising you that has irrigation experience, irrigation business experience. So, I think that's it. We hope we helped you guys out, gave you some information. Hopefully, not too much work, and we'll see you guys on the next video. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.